How'd you get into cosplay in the first place?
You guys heard of League of Legends? There was a character I wanted to be from League of Legends, and it was June of that year, 2012. And I was like, I really want to be this character. And I was like, man, they don't make costumes for League of Legends, because I only knew like Halloween costumes. And my friend was like, let's go to a convention and you could cosplay. And I was like, what's that? They're like, you make the costume, you dress up. I was like, people make costumes? What? You don't just go to Spirit or Party City and buy it? And they're like, no, I made probably the worst costume I've ever made. I mean, I hope, my first costume was the worst I've ever made, but it was like hot glue, and I went to Joann's for my first time, like hot glued fabric together. I went to the thrift store and hot glued a bunch of stuff together. I went to a con, and I had so much fun. The atmosphere was so good, and that was the start. Because the next year, my friend was like talking about a con again. I was like, oh, I went to one of those. It was a lot of fun. I want to do that again. So that was how I started, and then I just kept going to them more frequently and making new stuff and things like that. So
at what point did you start doing it like professionally?
I still don't think it's professional. I still think that I don't take it seriously enough, because you'll have people very serious about what they do, very serious about their craft, and I think I just stumbled into it. So I don't think there was like a definitive line, but if I had to like give you an answer for the professional aspect of it, when I was able, everyone online tells me it's just when I was able to support myself through cosplay alone. If the bills were paid by cosplay alone, and the print sales and the Patreon and this and that, I guess that would be the defining point when you are able to make a livable wage off of what you're doing. So, and for that, I would say it was last March, April, around there. So March, April, or 2017.
Now, according to your bio, you've done some work on behalf of companies. How did that get started?
They emailed me and they were like, hey, we want you to work for us. And I was like, okay. So I know it's a super not interesting answer, and I'm sorry, but it's a lot of people think it's like super fun and stuff, and it's not like, it is really exciting, because like in my bio it says Nintendo. They contacted me and they're like, hey, we're doing this promotion at San Diego Comic-Con, and like super exciting to get that, especially for Nintendo, because they don't work with cosplayers very often. So I was very excited about that. But when you just say it out loud, it doesn't sound as exciting, because all they do is they email you and they're like, hey, we want to do this, sign this NDA, and you're like, okay. So
what are some of your favorite cosplays that you've done?
I like Genos from One Punch Man. I don't know, it's a good anime. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's really funny. That's probably my favorite costume I've ever done, just because he's like a cyborg. He's got cool cyborg arms. I'm a sucker for things like that, so I like making armor. So that one's pretty cool. All the Final Fantasy boys. I've been playing Final Fantasy since I was a kid, so to be able to like embody those characters, it's a dream come true.
Are there any particular costumes you've made that you've been proud of from a technical aspect, like you had to solve some sort of problem with it or something, and you came with an inventive solution?
Jin from League of Legends. He's his character. His whole design is asymmetrical, and you look at it and you're like, this wouldn't work in real life, and then you make it and you're like, this shouldn't work in real life. So that one, it's a more, you have to look at the design and then be like, oh, I see why you hated your life while you were making this. So it's probably that one. So I'm happy that I did that, and happy I never have to do it again.
How did the name Moderately Okay come into?
That is a great question. I love that question. It was 2013 or 2014, and at this point, everyone's making a cosplay page. And at that point in time, you made a cosplay page because you didn't want people to add you on your personal profile. Like, I'm a very private person. Like, I like keeping my personal life separate from cosplay. But there was this time, and everyone's making pages because they're like, oh, don't add me on my personal profile, just follow my cosplay page. And now everyone's got one, but at that time, no one really had them, and there were a few people that had them and a few people that were really big, but it was easier to grow one. So I started one, and I was like, what do I want to name myself, And the original name that I had thought of was Okay Cosplays, and then it was going to be just Okay Cosplays, and I was like, that's not catchy enough. So but the meaning behind it was that I wanted to, no matter how good I got, I still wanted to be like an okay cosplayer, Because when people look at, when your name's like, oh, the best cosplay, or you name yourself like after your name, like that's your brand is you, I feel like there's an air of professionalism around those, to where it also subconsciously puts a feeling of unattainability, because it's like, look at my amazing armor and how perfect I am. And people only show the best sides of themselves a lot of the time. And I always wanted to be like, I'm just a guy cosplaying, I'm just doing me, and I'm making the costumes, and anyone who wants to do this can do it too. And then the Moderetely came just because I thought Okay Cosplays was too short. So I added another word that ended in Y, so that there's like, they all end in Y. I know it's, what's it called? There's a word for that. I don't know what it's called. But I know what alliteration is, when they all start with the same vowel. So it's like alliteration, but at the end of words.
Enduration. Sounds right.
Yeah, sure.
That's right.
Enduration.
That's it. Right now, currently, you've been cosplaying a lot as Final Fantasy characters and everything like that. During those open ceremonies, they said you had like almost an unhealthy passion for it.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? Where did you start with that Final Fantasy?
When I was a kid, I have an older brother, and I would come home from school and he was playing Final Fantasy VII when it came out every day. And I loved Cloud. I thought Cloud was the coolest guy ever. Sorry. And he had a big sword, and he had like cool hair and like just cool design. I was like, man, I want to be that guy, So I started cosplaying, because of League of Legends. And then like a year after I started cosplaying, it dawned on me that like, oh, I could be Final Fantasy. So I cosplayed Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, and it was all right. And then I did a few more like Square Enix things throughout, working on cosplays, but mostly I did anime stuff. And then like, I was like, man, I really want to do Squall again. So I did Squall again. And then when Final Fantasy 15 was coming out, I had always liked the designs when the anime came out, and I got a little more into it. And I was like, I'm going to make all the cosplays from this. They just have cool designs. So I've made, I think at this point I've made 6 Final Fantasy 15 cosplays. And then I've also cosplayed from 8, I did Squall, I did Sephiroth and Cloud from 7. And it's always just been a part of my life as a gamer. It's what got me into hardcore video gaming, like hardcore, It's always been a part of my gaming life. So it kind of just transferred over into the cosplay life with the release of 15. So, because I love the game, and I don't think there's a better way for me to pay tribute to a game that I like more than, becoming those characters. So, yeah.
Very cool.
What do you do with your costumes after you're kind of done with them? Do you have like a storage solution?
Yeah, I have a storage unit where I just hang them up. In the storage unit. That's where they go. Some I know if I will never wear them again, I'll sell them. Because it's like, you can get, like, I won't sell some of them, because some of them, like, that you make from the inside out are, like, super janky, and, like, you've got to make ends meet. So, like, the outside of a costume can look good, but the inside can just be horrendous, because no one's looking. Cosplay is like the opposite of making friends. Cosplay, what's on the outside is what counts most, and on the inside doesn't matter. So, some of them I'll sell. If I think they're like good enough that I want them to go to a good home and get worn again, and can make someone else happy, I'll sell them. Otherwise, they just get thrown out or hung up in the storage unit. There's some I want to bring out, later. I'm like, I would wear this one again. So, like right now, I was talking about One Punch Man, Genos. I haven't worn it since July of last year, so it's just currently sitting in a box in my storage unit. And I'm like, I'll wear this again someday. Don't you worry. So.
And you did cosplay once as Gary Oak from Pokemon. How did
Yes.
that come about? And anything in particular you want to mention about that costume?
He's my favorite Pokemon character because he's like, if you follow the Pokemon show, like Ash is the worst protagonist of all time because he sets out to be a Pokemon master and then he catches like 5. Half of them he doesn't even catch, he just befriends, which I think is cool. It's cute, but Gary Oak was the man. Gary Oak got all the gym badges first. He had like the best team. He had the bigger Krabby than Ash, Gary Oak, that was the man. He was so good at training Pokemon that he had to move on to being a researcher. And I thought, this guy's he's like 14 years old and he's got a convertible full of cheerleaders. So I want to be that guy. So that was I always thought he was the coolest, and I love Pokemon. Pokemon was another game that I had played like since my childhood, like all the time. Pokemon Blue version, that was the one I played. I play Red, played Blue version because it had Blastoise on it. So.
And the costume itself, anything in particular? Was that relatively straightforward when you're doing someone who is ostensibly kind of supposed to be a normal person type character?
Yeah, I love costumes like that because you can Amazon most of it. For Gary, all I had to make was the necklace strapping on the boots, and then he has like an orange bias at the bottom of his shirt. But for that one, I made his badge case where he has 12 badges in a region that only has 8. So I had the badge case open up, and it had 12 badges. I thought that was fun. And then his wig was he's got a very big anime hairstyle, which was took a little time to style, but. It's deceptively simple, and simple cosplays can be harder because if you have a complex cosplay and you miss a few details, no one's going to notice unless they're really nitpicking you. But if you have a simple cosplay and you miss a few details, it's going to be like very glaringly obvious. So you want to pay closer attention to those simple ones.
That's there.
So, love Gary. Cool guy.
For people out there who like are watching interviews or want to follow you, where can they go to follow you or find more information about you?
Moderately Okay Cosplay across all social media. I got Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook. I think that's it for as far as social media. Facebook is probably like the least active because their algorithms are a little shaky right now. Instagram, follow me there. I post like a ton of progress. I post a ton of completed pictures, professional shots. Twitter, mostly posting just random things, retweeting things I like, just kind of talking. Very casual. And Tumblr, I just reblog a lot of art. So there's different. If you're into different things, then you. Follow me on all those to get the full experience, So different sides of the beast.
And looking towards the future, do you have any dream cosplays that you're got banked in your mind? That's like maybe one day I'll get to it. Maybe
I want to do Ornstein from Dark Souls.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's my favorite boss fight in anything ever. Is Ornstein and Smog from Dark Souls 1. I want to make Ornstein's armor, like he's big gold lion armor, and it just looks super cool. And I always said like when I'm done, with because those cosplays, sometimes you got to do things for you, but there's a difference between doing something for you that takes a few weeks and a project like that would take months. But I always said when I was done, that would be the one I would just sit down and focus on, and then just bust it out at a con and be very uncomfortable for the whole day in full armor. So
Yeah, speaking of uncomfortable, you're based in Orlando, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, most of the year there is going to be pretty warm. I'm guessing you have some problems and stories about getting a little overheated.
Oh yeah. You get overheated a lot at any con just because there's a bunch of people in a small space, so it gets hot. And I try to keep it comfortable. When I'm going to a con, I try to wear the comfortable costumes because I have made the mistake of wearing hotter costumes to a Florida convention especially. It's nasty. You don't want to be uncomfortable at a con. You gotta put yourself first no matter what, and like your happiness first, because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to be happy and you're not going to have a good time no matter how good your costume looks. So, but some people are like, I suffer from my craft. I don't know. I can't get into that. I just want to be comfortable and have a nice time. So
that's about all I've got. So.
All right. Thank you.